Welcome to the Texas High School Football Coaches Show on Lone Star Gridiron. I'm Chris Daly, and it's my belief that the men that make up the fraternity of Texas high school football coaches are much more than a bunch of thick-necked guys with whistles. They do so much more than teach technique and the X's and O's of football. They take young boys and change them into young men of character. They get kids to believe in themselves, to trust others, and to put others ahead of themselves. Texas high school football coaches are unique in how they impact the lives of these athletes as well as the generations those kids touch. In this show, I sit down with a different Texas high school football coach each time and learn about them. Not their record, not their on-field accomplishments, but who they are and what they believe and what it means to be part of the greatest sport in the greatest state. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lone Star Gridiron Texas High School Football Coaches Show. I'm Chris Daly. This is Season 3, Episode 17 of the show. My guest today, Coach Carl Abseck from Cedar Park. But before we get to him, this message.
This show is brought to you by the book, All I Need to Know I Learned from My Texas High School Football Coach. A handbook of wisdom for parents, young people, and yes, even coaches. Head over to www.learnedfromcoach.com and order your copy to support sharing the stories of these great coaches and leaders. That's learnedfromcoach.com.
Hey, did you play Texas high school football? If you did, you're part of an elite group, the Brotherhood of Texas High School Football. All football players, past and present, who have ever suited up in the Lone Star State are eligible. Go to LoneStarGridiron.com/brotherhood. And thank you for the part you played in the greatest sport in the greatest state.
You're listening to the LSG Sports Network, the authority on Texas high school football. All right, everybody join me in welcoming Coach Carl Abseck from Cedar Park High School to the show. Coach, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me.
Oh, you bet, you bet. As you know, as much as I would love to talk about your football team in 218, and I promise I will get with you in coaches school and do that, I want to talk about you instead. I want to talk about your career, your life, your belief systems, and basically what it means to be Carl Abseck, the coach.
Okay.
So let's start. Let's go all the way back to when you were maybe playing football, whenever you figured out you wanted to become a coach. Tell us that story.
I'm from Bridgeport, Texas. I had a coach. His name's Pete Hart. He's actually the head coach and athletic director at Alvord High School currently. But he was my seventh grade coach, and then he moved up with us all the way through to when I graduated. Moved up from the middle school to the high school when we went to high school, and he made a big impact on me as a coach in terms of, one, seeing that lifestyle and seeing the impact that they have on kids. And so, he was an encourager and someone who kind of, guided our direction as young people. But for me specifically, it kind of opened my eyes to the coaching profession. I'm obviously not from a coaching family. So, that was probably my first influence. And so from there, I went to college. I went to Ranger Junior College to play baseball and played there for a year and a half. And then I finished up at Midwestern. And from the time I went to college until I graduated, though, I knew that this was the path that I would like to take for a career.
Nice. So your college career was driven, I guess, career-wise toward becoming a coach, right? It wasn't like you just shifted gear halfway through.
No. My whole time I was in college, that was the direction I was headed. And so, I graduated from Midwestern with all my teaching stuff ready to go and did the student teaching and got that experience at Ryder High School up in Wichita Falls. And so, that was my career path, and that was where I was headed. It wasn't a a late change or anything like that. It was just it just seemed like that's what I wanted to do.
Nice. And did you do the GA work, or did you just go into teaching first?
No, I just went into teaching and coaching. I got my first job right out of Midwestern. I graduated in the fall of '96 and got my first job at Wichita Falls High in the fall of '97. So that was my direct path. I didn't do any coaching or anything in college or GA or anything of that nature.
Got it. All right. So if you could give us stop-by-stop of each of your jobs up through today.
It's a pretty short list. I got hired by Coach Leo Britton in the fall of 1997 at Wichita Falls High School, and I was there from '97 to 2004. Coach Britton was there my first 4 years, and then the last 4 years I was there, I was with Chris Ross as the head coach. I was his offense coordinator my last 2 years there. And then in 2005, we came to Cedar Park, and I served as his offense coordinator from 2005 to 2011. Then Coach Willis took over here in 2012, and I was his offense coordinator from 2012 to 2014. And then I was fortunate enough to be hired as the head coach here in 2015, and been here ever since. So 21 years and 2 spots.
Nice. Yeah. So if you could, tell me about some of those coaches that you worked with or for, and break down individual things that each of them taught you.
My first head coach was Leo Britton, and, he's obviously a Texas High School Coaches Association Hall of Famer, tremendous coach, and I was fortunate to be hired by him, right out of college as a freshman coach, and then moved up quickly after that. But, from him, I learned that you can't overlook the basics. It was step by step. It was really specific. It was detailed, and it was a little bit of old school football. And so I learned, that part, how to handle kids, and how to treat them right. And I learned that from him. He was a tremendous influence on my life and my coaching career. Then I was, fortunate to get to work with Coach Ross we were together for, I think, 14 years. Right at 14 years, between Wichita Falls and Cedar Park. And he's a detail guy. He's a X's and O's guy. One of the smartest football coaches I know, and a great human. So from him, organization and, preparedness, and, again, just, I think we all kind of felt the same way about kids. We treated kids the right way. We were there for them to grow as men. The football was a part of it. It was a big part of what we did together, but what we said was that, and what we've always said is that the only thing we taught you was football, then we failed. And so I learned that mentality and that attitude and why we do what we do a lot from him. Coach Willis was very much the same way. Between those two, it's hard to find someone who's a better X's and O's guy. He has a way of really influencing kids. Coach Willis does. He kind of goes more into the psychological side, and he's a thinker, and he really gets the most out of kids by bringing that to the forefront and making them believe that they can accomplish things that they maybe didn't think they could do themselves. And so as a coach growing up through the profession, those three obviously had a huge impact on me and my path in my career in terms of learning from them, working with them, seeing how it's done, the off season, the in season, the organization part, but how you deal with people. Those three guys, obviously had the biggest influence on my career, and I've been very blessed to work with, a lot of really, really good men, really, really good coaches who've gone on to do a lot of good things, great things. And, I think our staff that we had here from 2006 till almost 2012, I guess, I think there's 7 or 8 head coaches now out of that group. So it was a really good group to be a part of and learn from and share knowledge with.
Nice. You mentioned the kids believing in themselves, and I've seen that as a repetition year after year, that you'll see kids that maybe aren't as talented as some of the other squads, but because they believe in themselves stronger, they go much further. How do you instill that in kids?
I think, one is just you give them a process to follow to make themselves the best they can be. Mm-hmm. And we instill in them a tremendous work ethic, and we make them believe that what they're doing benefits them long term, not just in the short term. But by doing that work and putting in that time, that we talk to them about investing more than what the other person is willing to invest. Mm-hmm. Individually, and by doing it individually, the team is going to be better because of it, and you create buy-in. It's a process of how we play, but also in how we prepare. And I think the biggest deal we can do is help them be successful in life. And how else can we do that other than teach them to have tremendous work ethic and passion about it, what they're doing? And I think over these years we've really had a lot of success in that area. And they quite frankly don't believe that they're supposed to lose, and it's because of the investment that they have in it, in the process to get where they're at.
Excellent. Another recurring theme that I've heard talking with coaches over the years is their personal development or transition from being, hey, I want to win football games, to I want to win hearts and minds and develop kids. Talk about that transition. When did that come, and how did that come?
I think over the time frame of working with the different people that I've worked with, that was one of the conclusions that I came up with was people will do a lot more for you and with you when you invest in them. I think that is probably the most important thing that I've learned in coaching, is that the more you invest in your players as people, and the more you build that relationship with them, the harder they're willing to do the work that you're asking them to do. They're going to fight harder for what it is that we want as a group and the success that we all desire. So, the X's and O's are important. They matter, but the relationships that we build with our kids will pay the greatest dividend. And I think that's the one thing that I've taken out of coaching more than anything is that, the X's and O's part is the coaching side, and then how you give them that knowledge and how they receive it and how you work it and repeat it. That's of huge importance, but they're going to do a lot more for you and with you if they know you care about them as a person. And if it's all about football, then that's going to be their mentality as well. And that kind of creates a selfishness, one being centered on himself, where when you spend time with them, that's a huge investment, because we only have X amount of time. And when they see that and they know that you care about them more than just what they can do for you on the field as a coach, then they're willing to do almost anything that you ask them to do.
Exactly. Love is spelled T-I-M-E.
Yes, sir. And that there's nothing better, no better way of saying it than that,
Yeah. So talk about the transition for you from being an assistant to being a head coach. What was that like? Was that overwhelming? What did you have to get up to speed on?
Well, the football side of it was, I feel like, a pretty smooth transition. It's the administrative side of it. It's the booster club side of it. It's the, being more involved with the parents side of it. And then obviously as the athletic coordinator, it's having to staff the other sports, to spend the time with them in order to help them be successful and have an opportunity for success. It's that side of it that was probably the biggest transition for me. Football was, that's what I knew well. I was a baseball assistant as well, and so I felt pretty good on the football side. It was probably the administrative side more than anything. dealing with the media and just all the different things that you have to do as the head coach that you don't have to do as an offense coordinator, as an assistant, that take up a lot of time, but they're all important aspects of the job. And so you have to learn to be a little bit more organized and prioritize your time in order to get all the things that you have to get done in the time frame that you have.
Well, and also talk about the importance of your assistant coaches then in hiring the right person.
Well, that's probably the biggest thing I do in my role is hire good people, not only for football but for every sport that we offer on our campus, because not everybody plays football, not everybody plays basketball or baseball, and so, but for some people that is what they do, that's what they have a passion about, and so I think the hiring process is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing that I can do for our campus and for our school to have success in all the different sports that we offer. For me personally, I don't have as much time to dedicate strictly to football, and so my assistants are critical to our success because there's obviously no way that I'm going to have the ability or time to do everything that I need to do every day for just strictly for football, and so I trust them to carry out the game plan. We have a process and we have a schedule, and I know that I can count on my guys to take care of the details and take care of their positions, and my coordinators do a great job, and so hiring is important, and for obvious reasons, but also having people that have the same passion for working with kids and making difference in their lives as well.
And you also had mentioned administration and community, how that ended up taking up a lot more time than as an assistant. I've seen communities where football's like, it's important, but it's not the main thing. I've seen communities where football's everything, or volleyball's everything, or whatever. Talk about how you help develop that community and set their expectations.
I think, success breeds success, and, we've been very fortunate here to be successful over the last, 10 years in football, which, football and volleyball and cross country start the year, and our volleyball program has been very successful. They went to the state championship game 2 years ago. Our cross country team is one of the top cross country teams in the state, and that's how we kick off the year. Our band program has won, back-to-back state championships. So, all those activities start the year out, and so our kids seeing their classmates have success instills that desire to be successful as well. And our community is very supportive of what we do. Our parents are tremendous supporters of all of our programs. Like I said earlier, not everybody does everything, and so each sport we have, activity we have, has a group of core supporters that they're there because their child is involved, and so they put their heart into making that program the best it can be. I think it's one of those deals where it's not necessarily competition, but it kind of is, because everyone wants to share in that success. And we've talked about one of our goals as a campus is to try to win another Lone Star Cup. We were able to do that in 11 and 12, and so we want to compete for Lone Star Cups, and because that means that we're all having success across the board, academically, athletically, and so. That's something that as a campus we take a lot of pride in competing for that and trying to be up at the top. And our community is a big part of that. They support they give us a lot of the tools that we need that we can't necessarily get on our own. And they're there for their kids. And I think that's, as a parent, that's the number one thing you can do, is to be there for your kid and their activity and support them in what they're spending their time doing.
Excellent. I'm going to give you a scenario, and it's probably almost most assuredly one that's happened to you already. You're traveling. You're in another state. sitting in an airport, somebody finds out, hey, you coach Texas high school football. What's a story or moment that comes to mind that how you explain to these people when they ask you, what's so different? What makes Texas so special when it comes to football?
I think, what I've said before to people that I've met from out of state is, for us, it's not a hobby. It is our career. It's our passion. It's what we do every day, 365 days a year, which is unlike most places across the United States. We have athletic periods. We have contact with our kids throughout the summer. We study the game. We go to clinics. And so for us, it's not our second job. It's not the other thing that we do. It is our career. It is our passion. We're professionals at what we do. And I think that's probably the biggest difference between, Texas high school coaches and other coaches in the other parts of the country, not because they don't have the same passion or desire, but because the system is not set up for them to do that on a full-time day after day basis. They don't have athletic periods and things of that nature that allows us to have a greater impact on our kids because we have daily interaction with our athletes in season and out of season. And so our opportunities to influence them and to direct them in their life and in their path is, to me, much greater than what it is potentially in other schools or other states because they don't get to see them every day. They don't have that daily interaction during the athletic period because, that is a huge time for us on the mental side, the mental training side, the social training side, where we get an opportunity to work with them in that setting outside of the sports that we coach. And I think that would be how I've described it before, and that this is what we do. This is not the other thing that we do, and I think that's what separates us.
Excellent. I guess, how big is the portion of your job that goes towards talking with colleges and fielding questions from recruiters and things like that? How big is that?
It's huge. When they're out on the recruiting trail, I get visits basically 5 days a week.
Wow.
Some of them call in advance, some of them just drop in, and so it takes up a lot of your time. I've probably had 13 coaches in this week at least, and so let's just say it's 30 minutes per visit that you're utilizing to help sell your kids, to show them the athletes that you have and where they might fit, because you want to help them open up new avenues to going to school, and so it's a critical part of what we do, and it does take up a lot of time, especially when they're out on the recruiting trail.
Definitely. All right, Coach, what does the future hold for you? What goals do you have left? Tell us your crystal ball looking forward.
Well, I've only been a head coach for 3 years, and so this part of it, this was a goal for me as a young coach growing up in the profession, is that at some point I wanted to be a head coach, and so I've gotten this tremendous opportunity to be here at Cedar Park, and for me this is home. My son was 2 when we moved here. He's a freshman. My daughter was born here, so this is a special place for me. My administration, my principal, John Sloan, he gave me an opportunity here to be the head coach, and so for me, I can't see there being a better place for me right now and in the near future. But my goal is to just continue to try to do the very best I can for this school and for this community as the athletic coordinator and as the head coach of the football program. Obviously, we want to try to keep winning championships. We've been blessed to win 2 and compete for a 3rd, and we've been right there on the edge of a few other times. And so I would like to win another state championship, but I think the biggest impact that we can have is on our youth, the boys and the girls that go through Cedar Park High School, setting them up for success in the future. And I think, like I've said before, some of the biggest joys I have is around Thanksgiving, Christmas, and in May when those kids get out of school and they come back up and they visit with you and they tell you what's going on in their lives. And so when you have a lot of visitors coming back to see you, you did something right and that you made an impact.
I love it. I love it. Coach Carl Abseck, I want to thank you so much for taking a few minutes of your time this morning to sit down and share some of your story.
I appreciate you having me on, and it's been a pleasure.
Imagine a game where you can pit the greatest Texas high school football teams of all time against each other. Before now, if you wanted to see the Permian Panthers of Friday Night Lights fame play Johnny Manziel's 2010 Kerrville squad, you were stuck with only your imagination. Not anymore. This new game allows you to play those dream matchups. 1983 Dangerfield only allowed 8 points all season. 2015 Katy, 10 shutouts en route to their 4th straight championship appearance. 2008 Allen, their first of 5 championships in the state's largest classification, and so many more. Friday Night Legends is that game. What are you waiting for? Get in the game. Friday Night Legends.
You're listening to the LSG Sports Network, the authority on Texas high school football.